Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Williamson, and the Steelers have a 53-man roster. Here we go. Now, before we get too crazy, there's still a lot of balls in the air. I just finished recording the drive, and it's about 6 p.m. on Roster Cut Tuesday. And yes, they have a 53-man roster. Now, that does not mean that these 53 will be the exact same Steelers that are employed and on the roster for Jets Week. And we'll talk about some of that stuff, and we'll probably talk about it further this week as well. I think there's more moves I know there's more moves to be made. And there's some shocks, but there's some things you get to realize that they're very temporary, or they're only a week one situation, or injury related, or temporary in general. But still, it's worth discussing. I'm a little shocked at a few things. And let's start with quarterbacks. Rodgers, Rudolph, Thompson, and Will Howard are currently on the roster. Now, all reports, and this 100% adds up, that they will move Will Howard very quickly, or, at some point, to IR. I guess people have been saying at some point he will go. And therefore, they will bring somebody else to the roster, probably a defensive back. We'll get to that late, but there's no way that 4 quarterbacks will be on the team for the whole season or whatever. This is a very temporary thing. So Howard will end up on IR. Your 3 quarterbacks will be Rodgers, Rudolph, Thompson, which will eventually, at some point, probably in the next couple days, open up a roster spot. Running back is not surprising at all. It's Warren, Johnson, Gainwell. Very little to be shocked about there. Same with tight end. Freiermuth, Jonnu, Darnell, Connor Hayward. Totally logical. Totally get it. Wide receiver, I still think there could be a name to be added. If you didn't listen to yesterday's podcast about Jacoby Myers, he is very interesting to me, as would Romeo Doubs or Alec Pierce or some others. But I think that they still could be scanning for a wide receiver. But it's DK Metcalf, it's Calvin Austin, it's Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, and Ben Skoranek, who is a star special teamer. Not a lot of surprise there either. The offensive line, they kept 9. Can't say I'm super shocked. I mean, you got the starting 5, Broderick and Troy. You got Isaac and Mason and Zach. They're the starting 5. McCollum is your direct backup at center, pretty much only. Spencer Anderson is maybe your starting left guard next year, but it was an easy make to the team. Calvin Anderson, who's been out of sight, out of mind, made it as well and was going to be your swing tackle. Again, they gave him a 2-year deal, folks, so this is not surprising, though we haven't seen him much lately. And then Andres Pete made the list. So he could play left tackle, he could play guard. I think that's a good sign for him that they're that comfortable with him. So not a lot of craziness there, other than the quarterback move to be made later. But defense is much more interesting. But we'll go here with special teams. Boswell made the team. I assume you know by now Waitman made the team and Kuntz made the team. Now, I think the biggest thing of why Waitman made it over Johnston is you save about $2 million in cap space. Like that could go to Cam Hayward, that could go to Boswell, that could go to Jacoby Myers. I mean, who knows, And I assume that they thought that battle was close enough. And maybe they just thought Waitman's better. I can't say I'm a punting expert, nor will I ever be. But I assume it was a very close battle. And the thing that Waitman had going for him that was enough is the cap savings. And that isn't nothing. I mean, that money is going to go somewhere useful. So if you think both are good, I totally understand that. And I have really no complaints with that at all. Okay, here's where things get weird. Well, I'm going to start with the non-weird parts. Your edge guys, your outside linebackers. Watt, Highsmith, Herbig, Sawyer. What I think is a positive here is they didn't keep an extra, namely Leal or somebody like that. that really implies that week 1, they think Highsmith and Herbig are good to go. So when you read the tea leaves of what they're not saying, but they're still telling you, that's a positive. Cool. So I assume that they're feeling comfortable about that. Your off-the-ball linebackers. As expected, they kept 5. Queen, Wilson, Holcomb, Harrison. Sure. And then Carson Bruner. Good for him. I would bet everything I own, basically, that conversation went, hey, Danny Smith, who would you rather have, Carson Bruner or Mark Robinson? Okay. You like Bruner better? Great. And that's what that comes down to. You hope neither one would ever see the field as a true off-the-ball linebacker. And a lot of injuries would have to happen, especially with Holcomb being as good as he is to back up both spots, that I don't think you have any concern with that. So, okay, your linebackers, your outside and inside linebackers, no real shock, but Bruner over Robinson is noteworthy. And again, to get this, who's better on teams to me. They kept 8 defensive linemen, and I don't like this, and I'll tell you why. Here's the names. Cam, of course. Benton, Harmon, Black, Ukele, Logan Lee, Otomanuo, I crush his name, my apologies, and Isaiah Loudermilk. 8 is too many. Now, what does this tell us? This tells us, to no shock whatsoever, that they do not expect Eric Harmon to play against the Jets. Okay, that's fine. Now, 8, you could keep 7 and get away with that. I mean, dress the other 6. Now, Chris mentioned the other day that Keanu Benton is dealing with an upper body injury. Total hunch, and this is just also kind of just reading what Chris put out there, that if they don't have Harmon week 1, I'm betting Benton is going to be questionable, or you just don't know 100%, or at least on the injury list once they start practicing and have to divulge an injury list. Doesn't mean he's going to play, doesn't mean he doesn't, but they probably are saying there's a chance he doesn't play. I bet it's slim, but I don't know that for sure. Could Cam Hayward refuse to play? Could. We're not out of the woods on that yet. And just as concerning, well, not just as concerning, similarly concerning, I don't want to play Cam Hayward a lot in this game no matter what. I mean, the last time he's really played meaningful snaps of football was the playoff game in Baltimore. He doesn't do anything during practice, really. I mean, even before he was, quote, it was known that he was holding in, he does his own stuff, but I don't think he had any snaps, none that I can remember, in team drills, where he's actually out there taking on Zach Frazier or Siamalu or whatever in team drills. And 0 preseason snaps. So even if he's happy as can be and is all in, which I kind of expect, what kind of football shape is he going to be in at his age? And how much do you want to play him to begin with? So I say this also against the Jets, who are going to run the ball like crazy. I've been joking with my Jets preview that they're going to be like a service academy. I mean, it's going to be fields running. They've invested a lot in their O-line. And worst case scenario, Harmon's out, Benton's unable to play, and Hayward is rounding into shape in terms of stamina. Like how many snaps can he string together? Y.A. Black's really, really exciting, but he's never played an NFL down. I like Logan Lee, never played NFL down. And those other guys are fringe dudes. Like, them keeping 8 to me is a red flag, is a concern. At least it tells me they are concerned. Okay. So about the secondary. Corner, top 4, set in stone. Ramsey, Slay, Porter, Eccles. Great. I didn't see this coming. Dante Kent. I thought for sure he would go on a list. And I guess he still could, kind of like Howard. But we haven't seen much from him. It makes me think either that move is coming, just like Howard, a rookie they loved and drafted and didn't see a ton of, and need to set him here for a minute until they put him on injured reserve. Or, I mean, he hasn't done anything for a while. Or they're just super high on him. You know, wouldn't be active on game day. You have all four of those other corners that Kent could just kind of learn and get back into shape, etc. And maybe they just are really high on him and think that he could be a long-term contributor for this team. And maybe even a somewhat short-term help for this team. Special teamer and has a bright future. I don't know. I take that as a positive for Kent. I thought for sure he'd be, boom, IR, never see from him again. But that only leaves 3 safeties, which is also very concerning. Elliott, Thornhill, Killebrew. Killebrew can get you out of a game. But you don't want him to. I really think he's a special teamer. That's a stretch to say that he's an NFL safety. Now, you play the Jets in week 1, and the Jets have one good wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. I don't think you're going to be a nickel and dime much, hardly at all in that game. And when you have 4 defensive backs on the field, I think most of the time, if not all the time, those 4 defensive backs are going to be Elliott, Porter, Slay, and Ramsey as a safety. So, okay, you can play that game maybe with just Thornhill, Elliott, and Killebrew. Probably could. It's a little risky, but you probably could. And I also think there's a chance that Chuck Clark or someone similar, maybe from outside the organization, after week 1, when their contract isn't guaranteed, gets signed or re-signed right after the Jets situation. Or that's the other shoe to drop of the Howard situation. But as it stands now, the fact they've subject to change, and it will change. Having 8 defensive backs on your roster is not sustainable, and is no way that's going to keep up. So that's the final roster. These are there's 7 dudes as we speak right now on injured reserve. Jacob Slade, Dominique Davis, both defensive linemen, and Cameron McCutcheon, all of whom to me fit my mold of, I'd like to see him in Latrobe next year. Let's keep him around and we'll feed him meals and heal him up and coach him up, but let's see what they can bring to the table next year. I guess Brandon Johnson, the wide receiver, also fits that mold too. All those dudes cannot return, nor could Donald Parham or Dean Lowry, who, considering what I said about the D-line, Dean Lowry would be pretty useful against the Jets right now, just because he's been around the block. But those 6 cannot return. They will not play football this year. Brandon Johnson, Parham, Lowry, Slade, Dominique Davis, McCutcheon. Corey Trice is on injured reserve, designated to return. Perfectly cool with that. Maybe you hear from him this year, maybe we don't. I'm glad he's still Steeler property, I guess is the best way to put that. I definitely want him in camp next year. And maybe you need him between now and then. Maybe when he takes over Kent's job in some way, shape, or form. Who knows? Maybe he gets activated. I mean, down the line I'm talking about. So all in all, not a ton of surprises. I did not see Kent or Otomenwo on the team. I'm a little shocked by that, but I think we went through why. Howard is temporary. And they absolutely have to add to the secondary soon or after week 1. And I still think they'll be kicking the tires on a receiver from outside the organization. But that's pretty much where we're at. Nothing mind-boggling or crazy. But that's the Steelers 53-man roster for now.